The competition in the 10K segment has really been heating up with recent launches from Redmi, Realme and even Vivo. They've been offering very capable phones that also happen to be good value for money. So today let's compare three of the most popular options in this price segment to see which one is the best pick and why. Hey guys, Ash here from C4eTech, and if you do end up liking this three-way comparison video, please turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. Let's now get started. Design-wise, they're all pretty similar. Gradient pattern to the back, camera module to the left, fingerprint scanner along the middle, and brand name to the bottom left. Pick them up though, and immediately you'll realize that the Note 8, it's in a class of its own. Most phones in the 10K range, they come with a plastic body, so I'm not gonna call plastic a negative for the U20 and the Realme 5S, because that's just par for the course. The color shifting back, it looks good. There's no creaking or rattling, but at the same time, you gotta admit, in hand, plastic just doesn't feel as premium as glass. And given Redmi's managed to fit glass at this budget, not just any glass, but Gorilla Glass 5 to both the front and back nonetheless, the Redmi Note 8, it's the one I'm gonna have to go with here. Additionally, the Note 8 also has a P2i nano coating here that makes it splash resistant, and it even comes with a rubber grommet on the SIM tray to offer some kind of water sealing. Now, while the other two brands do not mention any kind of weatherproofing, it is worth mentioning that the U20 and the Realme 5S also have a rubber grommet on their trays. So take it for what it's worth. Okay, now let's turn these phones around and get to the displays. Here we have more similarity, which at this price point isn't all that surprising. All three phones have 6+ inch displays, all LCD, and there are notches up top. The U20 here has the largest screen of the bunch at 6.53 inches, the Realme 5S is a hair smaller at 6.5, and the Note 8, it's a 6.3 inch panel here. Now when it comes to the actual panel quality, the 5S, it falls behind. It's got a HD Plus resolution display. It's not as sharp as the Full HD Plus panels on the Note 8 and the U20. Now picking a winner between the Redmi and Vivo, it's tough since both of them have panels with vivid colors and great viewing angles, and they overall look great. But the Note 8 does get a little brighter, so I feel it's got a slight advantage there. In terms of protection, we have Gorilla Glass 3 Plus on the Realme 5S, the Note 8, as I mentioned before, it comes with Gorilla Glass 5. And finally the U20, for that Vivo's used Panda MN228 hardened glass. Vivo claims it's harder than both Gorilla Glass 3 and Gorilla Glass 5. So this round, I'm gonna call it a tie between Vivo and Redmi. Now heading into the performance round, again we've got similarities. Both the Note 8 as well as the Realme 5S, they come with the same Snapdragon 665 chip. The U20 on the other hand, it's got the more powerful Snapdragon 675. All of these here, they are 11nm chips, and as Geekbench results indicate, the U20 has an advantage. You're not going to really notice the difference with simple day-to-day tasks. All these phones, they feel smooth, apps open up nice and quick, and even switching between multiple social media apps, it's not a big deal. Now coming to the memory side of things, we have two SKUs of each device. There are so many RAM storage variants here, it's going to be difficult to follow along, so I have them up on screen. Interestingly, Vivo only offers 64 and 128 gig storage variants. The RAM stays the same at 4 gigs. With Realme, it's the opposite. There are 4 and 6 gig RAM variants, while the storage stays the same at 64 gigs. Redmi offers the more traditional 464 and 6128 RAM storage options for the Note 8. Now, one advantage that Vivo has over the competition is that it comes with UFS 2.1 storage, which is a bit faster compared to what Realme and Redmi offer, so everything's a tad snappier with the Vivo. All three devices do sport dedicated microSD options, so no difference there. When it comes to gaming performance, here's where Vivo takes a substantial lead. The Adreno 612 GPU outperforms the Adreno 610 on the Note 8 and the 5S. Of course, the dedicated Ultra Game mode on the Vivo U20 along with multi-turbo does play a part here. So here it's the Vivo, then the Realme, and finally Redmi. So why do I say Realme over the Redmi when they have the same chip? Well, it's sadly a result of Realme using a lower resolution panel. The Adreno 610 on the 5S, it's pushing fewer pixels than the same 610 on the Redmi Note 8. So the performance is a little better. That's it. Overall, with regards to performance, the U20, it takes the crown here. So that's thanks and large to the Snapdragon 675 SoC and the faster UFS 2.1 storage. Next up, let's talk battery. The Note 8 has the lowest capacity battery here at 4000 mAh, but it makes up for it with USB Type-C and 18-watt quick charge support. Both the Realme 5S and the Vivo U20 have higher capacity 5000 mAh batteries, but they do miss out on USB Type-C. The Realme 5S only comes with a 10-watt charger, but the U20 supports 18-watt dual-engine fast charging. Now, if we are going to compare battery life, the 5S takes the lead here since the 11nm processor, it's combined with a 720p screen and that massive 5000 mAh battery, meaning even for heavy users, the 5S should last more than a day on a single charge. So each of the three devices, they have their own pros and cons. Personally, I feel Vivo has a nice balance. Yes, it does not have Type-C, and that feels criminal, especially at the end of 2019. But it does offer almost as good a battery life as the Realme 5S, and its charge speeds are almost as fast as the Redmi Note 8, and it even has support for reverse charging via USB OTG. Now, if you thought picking a winner when it came to battery, now if that was hard, let's talk software. We have ColorOS 6 on the Realme, FunTouchOS 9 on the Vivo, and MIUI 10 on the Redmi, all based on Android 9 Pie. All three custom user interfaces are highly customizable and they come with tons of extra features. So picking one based on these criteria alone is impossible. They are also pretty well optimized for their hardware, so can't really separate them on that front either. Yes, FunTouchOS is more iOS-esque than Android. For instance, we have a control center here, so anyone switching from a non-Vivo phone to a U20 might take a while to get used to it. But on the other hand, it does have UFS 2.1, so it's a tad bit more snappy. Now, I know a lot of you guys do not like ColorOS. I've heard that in the past in the comments, but ColorOS 7 is supposed to be coming soon and it's bringing a lot of changes with it. So is MIUI 11, so I guess we're gonna have to wait for those updates to arrive. So the bottom line here is all three user interfaces here, they're pretty feature packed. The user experiences here, they have their own sets of pros and cons. So the winner here, it's gonna boil down to personal preference, and I'm gonna leave a poll here. So you guys go ahead, make your choice and let me know what it is that you choose. Now, before we jump into cameras, let's take a minute to go through the sundries. All three phones come with fingerprint scanners, physical fingerprint scanners, as well as a face unlock for biometric authentication. And they work fine, no complaints, no big differences. The bottom firing speaker, it's loudest on the Vivo U20, but the other two, they do come pretty close, so you aren't losing out on much. When it comes to output through the headphones, the Redmi seems to have an edge over the other two. Realme and Redmi both come with support for FM radio, something the U20 lacks. And the Note 8, it has two distinct advantages here. One, it has an IR blaster up top, and the second is this setting. It blasts a shrill sound through the speaker grill to clear out debris and dust. It's pretty unique, not something I've seen before on any other phone. So as far as sundries go, I'm gonna get this round to the Redmi Note 8. And finally, it's time we talk optics. The Redmi and Realme both have the same 48 megapixel Samsung ISOCELL Bright GM1 sensor as their primary camera, while the Vivo U20, it uses a 16 megapixel IMX499 Sony sensor. All three sensors, they are paired with an f1.8 aperture lens. Under bright daylight, they take good looking pictures. The Redmi opts for a bit more punchier colors, and that is something a lot of people generally prefer. Realme of course has that chroma boost option in case you want to bump up the dynamic range and saturation. In terms of detail, the Vivo U20 is a tad bit sharper, but you don't really notice that till you zoom in all the way, like with this safety valve of the cylinder here. The extra megapixels, they come in handy as the picture has less noise when zoomed in. Both Realme and Redmi have this 48 megapixel mode that does help in increasing the detail levels somewhat. You can also see that with the 48 megapixel mode, Realme and Vivo are almost at par now. Moving on to low light, we have dedicated low light modes on each of these phones. Note 8 does bring out more detail, but kinda looks over sharpened, and there are loads of artifacts in the image. Zooming in on the roof of this house reveals just how much more detail and noise the Note 8 captures. The 5S and the U20 are almost similar in detail levels. It's the same story in the other images as well. The Note 8 does take brighter and more detailed images, but the higher ISO levels also lead to a lot more noise in these images. The Realme 5S is also cranking up the ISO, but the processing, it seems smoother and there are a lot less visual artifacts here. Speaking of, the Realme also supports nightscape on the wide-angle camera. It's not as clean as the main camera, but hey, it's definitely usable. Let's now take a look at the ultra-wide cameras. All of them are 8 megapixel units, so when it comes to sharpness, there's not a lot between them. The processing on the Redmi is still a bit high on saturation. Overall, the dynamic range is decent across the board, and pictures, they mostly come out looking quite good. All three also come with a dedicated 2 megapixel macro camera, and I was actually surprised to see the difference in detail levels. As you guys can see here, Vivo has managed to take much sharper images compared to the other two. Moving on to rear portraits, we have a 2 megapixel depth sensor on the Realme as well as the Redmi, none on the Vivo though. And that does seem to have made a difference. As we can see, the edge detection isn't quite as good on the U20 as the Note 8 and the Realme 5S. Zooming, we can see the jagged blur lines along Sashidar's shirt. Coming to the actual details, Realme has softened out the face. It's kind of like an always-on beauty filter. I've kind of complained about that in the unboxing video of the 5S. So here's a link to that video in case you've not checked that out. Go ahead, do that. As far as the U20 and the Note 8 goes, the Note 8 has preserved more detail and it's got the edge here, but it can look a tad over sharpened at times. So if you prefer more natural looking photos, even if they are slightly soft, the U20, that's the way to go. As far as selfies go, we've got a 13 megapixel camera on both the Realme and Redmi, while Vivo's opted for a higher resolution 16 megapixel selfie camera. The photos, they come out looking pretty sharp, but once again, I prefer the more natural look of the Vivo compared to the over sharpened ones on the Note 8. With the portrait mode, the Note 8 wins when it comes to edge reduction. The Vivo is pretty jagged and rough around the edges, but the Realme 5S does quite well here. All that said, when it comes to cameras, the U20 feels like a balanced camera. The Note 8 does well in certain areas. The 5S is also quite decent. The U20, I think it's got an edge here. Now finally, we come to price. The Realme 5S starts at 9999, the same price as the Note 8, while the Vivo U20 retails for 10,990 or just 1,000 rupees more. All the base variants are 464, so is spending 1,000 rupees more on the Vivo U20 worth it? Well, if you want a more powerful processor, a larger screen, faster storage, a beefy battery along with 18-watt fast charging and a great camera, then the Vivo U20, that's the phone for you. That said, it's not without compromises. It's got a plastic build and it still comes with a micro USB port. Those are things you're gonna have to live with. Now, if you're on a tighter budget, the Redmi Note 8, it costs 1,000 rupees lesser and it doesn't have these compromises. It's got Gorilla Glass 5 for the back, it has a USB Type-C port and support for 18-watt fast charging, and it even has an IR blaster. The cameras here are pretty great too, especially if you take Gcam into account. And of course, the chip's not quite as powerful as what you'd get with the U20. The screen's smaller and the battery capacity is lower, but you are going to be saving 1,000 rupees. Now finally, we have the Realme 5S. While it comes close to both these phones in several aspects, it just isn't there yet. Yes, you do have the best battery life of the bunch, but unless that's your highest priority, the other two are definitely better options. That said, if you do own a Realme 5S, there's nothing to worry about. It's still a pretty good phone. It's just that while the Realme 5S is good, the U20 and the Note 8 are a little better. So that's pretty much it from my end. These are my 2 cents. Which one of the three would you be picking up if you had to choose between these three, and why? If you were, say, shopping for a phone in this segment today, what would be your pick? Let me know in the comments below. And I guess that's pretty much it for this 3-way comparison. I've not done 3-way full comparisons in the past, at least I can't remember. the last time I did one. So what do you guys think about this? How do you feel this video turned out? Do you have any constructive criticism to offer? Do you feel there's something I could have done better? If there's anything, let me know in the comments below. And I guess that's it. Thumbs up, thumbs down based on whatever you felt about this video. Subscribe, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon if you haven't yet. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4 Retech, and I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.